Welcome back to Carman Conversations, and this episode I've been looking forward to for a long time, and I've got a very special guest in my son, Kyden Camilleri, number 3 along of the 7. So welcome, Kyden, to Carman Conversations. So you know the drill here because we do it every morning. Yep. Your dinner and beverage, mate.
Dinner was burritos, obviously the guacamole, sour cream, cheese, had all the toppings, times 4. I was so full after. And I actually tried a new vodka and dry.
True. On a school night.
Yep.
Ooh.
Yep. You know me.
Good boy.
Yeah.
Well, it's a privilege to have you here, Kai. So it was, obviously, this is my 28th year in the automotive industry, and growing up in a family business, it was never my expectation that, through school that I thought that I'm going to end up selling cars or running a car dealership, or where I am. I wouldn't change it for anything that I have right now. But as I got through the career a little bit, and you kids started to get a little bit older, I always was hoping that one of you might want to get in the industry, but also at the same time, I never encouraged it, and I never wanted you guys to obviously say, look, I got to work there because Dad works there, and I wanted you to choose your own path, but you've come on board, and 2.5 years later, you're doing an amazing job. But I know the story, but just if you can tell us in your own words a bit about your childhood and, growing up a little bit, and then through school, and then to your trip to how you got to Grand Prix Mazda at Aspley.
Yeah. So obviously busy house. Busy house was always good. Always having someone there to be with. And obviously Jay and I are very close. Whatever it be, football, video games, we're all very close, which was good.
Yeah. Who was better?
Oh, obviously me at everything.
Yeah, of course.
Me at everything.
Yep.
He'll probably tell you otherwise, but no, it was always good having someone there. You're never alone, which was very comforting. But yeah, coming up, always a gamer, as you know.
Yep.
Was always behind the screen. Fell in love with basketball, and then I guess that leads from my high school years. Coming to the end of high school, had absolutely zero clue what I was going to do. A few conversations of what I should do. Obviously, you telling me or giving me your advice.
Yep.
Not that learning was never my thing, but I couldn't see me sitting behind a screen or learning virtually. It's always hands-on.
Yep.
And I was going to go study business, marketing kind of area.
Yep.
And then when I get an opportunity to work in the biggest Mazda dealership in Australia, it's a pretty easy decision to say, I'll try that.
Yeah, right.
So very hands-on, and
So we'll just go back a little step there. So through school, and this is often a question that that comes up a lot in automotive industry to me, is how do you get into car sales? Do I need to be qualified? Do I need to be experienced? And it's not like a trade, where you can be a plumber, an electrician, and as we spoke about. And you were quite clever through school, a lot smarter than your older brother Jalen.
Yep.
But you were quite clever, and it wasn't as if you didn't know, or you weren't intelligent enough to go and pursue anything. But again, in my mind, and I see this a lot, I don't think there's anything wrong with when you're 16 or 17 and you don't know exactly where you want to be or what you want to do. And this is the conversation that you and I had, in the kitchen at home around, what do we do, and what do you think? And so the decision was made to come and work for Grand Prix, and he came on as a junior salesperson. During that period, you obviously you thought long and hard about it to come up with the right decision. You made the decision, and then you came. And I remember we were on holidays at the time. We spent a bit of time together before you started. I think I was a bit more nervous than you were than your first day. But just talk us through a little bit about the anticipation to start, the expectation to work into a family business, the expectation, I suppose, from how regimented I am in my wants and desire, and what it was like to start your first day.
Well, extremely nerve-wracking.
Yep.
I tried playing it off because I felt like I had an expectation walking in the door, everyone knowing kind of who I was. So I did try playing it off, but I remember our first dinner in Bev, I was like, what is happening? I didn't know what I was doing. When it came to saying how I was for the day, I didn't even know how to say Richter, so I just waited for someone else to say it. And then I said, yep, I'm off the Richter, because I heard it. But I was pumped, ready to go. But it's one of those things, now looking back on it, is I don't know like, you can't prepare yourself for it.
Yeah.
It's like, I never knew I had this, the personality to go out and do it. And going back to, being 15, 16, 17 and not knowing what you want to do when you finish school is, I didn't know I had this kind of personality that I could go out and do these things.
Yep.
So you don't need to know what you want to do.
Yep.
But yeah, when I was coming in, that's all I could do is, show off my personality and show who I was, and yeah, that's how it went.
Well, you've done well. What about the expectation? So obviously, we're a family business of over 50 years. What was it like, obviously, having to work alongside your dad, but you've also got your papa, and a name of a reputation that's the best in the business? How was that?
Well, the Camilleri name, special one, that. It's more of one of those things where every time your friends are at the movies, they're always taking the photos and videos. Oh, you're on the ads. But for me, I thought it was pretty special. First full-time job, came from being a Domino's e-bike rider to working in the biggest Mazda dealership in Australia. But having you and Papa by my side, I think definitely helped. And most of the time you're too busy anyway, so it's not like we get to talk much. But even if we were to just meet up in the lunchroom and just, you've helped me through it and worked through it with me. But having the Camilleri last name, it's pretty easy to sell cars that way. Yeah. Not that I use it. Well, I will admit, I probably did used to use it to my advantage.
You used it way too much.
I'm the third generation. Who else is going to sell your car? It's going to be me.
Oh, whatever it takes.
Exactly. But now it's one of those things where I notice that people mention it before I say anything.
Yep.
I could go through the whole process, and even if they don't say anything, they know who I am. And they come up to me, and obviously, now being the third generation, they can tell because they've bought cars here before. They've seen us go from, Zilmere Road to now Brickfield Road.
Yep.
And yeah, they can see how big of a business we are, and they know that I've come along.
Yep.
And even just, I guess when it comes down to we've just signed off paperwork to do a deal, and the customer will, mention something like, oh, say hello to your papa for me, or how's your dad going, or just little things like that, which you don't even know.
Yep.
And yeah, just the reputation behind it. And
yeah, it's big, isn't it? So when you first came on, and I was like I said before, I was really nervous, and not so much for you because I knew I still looked at you as you'd just come out of year 12, so we're not a baby, but you're still young, and I'm very protective, as you know, and one thing I'm very protective of is my kids, and I was so worried for you, and will you be able to talk to people the right way? Will you understand, and I've done it all my life, and I was really worried about, will he get it? Will he get the concept? Will he understand? Will he have a good relationship with other salespeople? Will he know how the operation works? Or not that I thought you would fail. I never thought that. Or will he just not be that good at it because it's not him? Yeah. And I think it was after a couple of days, and I was watching the way you were talking to customers, and I overheard some of the things. I'm thinking, where's this boy get his confidence from? Like he talks so well, and he understands it, and he gets it, and and obviously you'd heard that over a lot of years through me, talking about it at home, and you hear things when you come into the showroom and so on. But I was really, really impressed with in the early days from how well you adapted. We touched on the Camilleri surname. I was the complete opposite. I didn't want anyone to know who I was because I wanted to do things my way. Yep. I wanted to prove myself, and it was different back then too. The market was different and generation was different. But I listened to you early on the piece, and you dropped the third generation. That's my papa over there, and there's my dad over there.
My dad in the middle, who's the one putting the deal together.
And you used it all to your advantage, which was clever. But obviously there was the stigma around, you're a Camilleri and you need to perform and to do a really good job. And to your credit, you were really, I guess, one of the leaders when it came to motivation and energy. And I put that down. A lot of people will say, no, you don't have any experience when you're in sales, but I've always been a believer that the energy will come from within, and your mindset of how I turn up every day, and that obviously the apple hasn't fallen far from the tree there, and you've got that, and you created some really good energy across the floor, and you've worked in an industry where it's ever changing. So when you first started to the market where it is today, what have you found changes? What have you found the difference to be in automotive?
So customer expectations probably one, but a huge thing that I guess everyone would notice is obviously how the stock availability and how buying cars is so much different to what it used to be a couple of years ago.
Yep.
So when I first started, someone would walk in, buy a car, and they'd pick it up next week, 2 weeks, longest wait time I reckon I ever saw was 3.
Yeah.
Which was just crazy. But now obviously, the shortest wait time you get is 3 months.
Yeah.
So that's probably the hugest change that I've seen in the industry. But customer expectation where, it's not about, because all new cars are going to drive nice. But Mazda has that reputation of the build quality, resale value, but it's also the customer experience.
Correct.
So yeah, when it comes down to, my customers' experience with, videos that I'll send customers or the presents I'll get them or little things like that compared to some of the other manufacturers and other sales consultants where they might not go that extra mile to try and make it work.
Yep.
But I feel like customers do now appreciate how they're treated, and that will affect the way that they buy a car.
That's one thing that's never changed, Kai, is good old-fashioned customer service. It's never changed. My dad always said that to me, and I've always passed that on. You can't beat it. You can't beat good old-fashioned customer service and building relationships. And when that relationships you've built, which you've found now, is how many repeat customers have you had in your 2.5 years? They come back, and whether it be the husband, the wife, the family, the daughters, the sisters, they all come back, but they want to deal with Kyden, because it was an experience rather than a transaction. So I agree that the market is ever changing. What advice, I guess, would you give someone if they wanted to get into the car industry or into sales now? Like, a lot of people say, I don't know anything about sales. How would I get into it? I don't know anything about the automotive industry. What would I do? What would be your best advice there?
It's going to be your mindset. So coming in, like we spoke earlier, it's customer expectation and how they're treated. So if you're coming in ready to go, mindset, flying through, not just a showroom, any sales, but yeah, coming through and saying, yep, I have this goal I want to set. I want to treat these customers the way they need to be treated. And, you don't need to know how to sell. It's not about selling. It's more about, treating the customer the way they need to be treated, because everything's there. They can do all the research online. But yeah, it's just got to be your mindset and how you come to work and just say, you know what, I'm here to do a job. And yeah, and then you come in and do it. So
what about a bit of advice the other way? If you're a customer, and what advice would you give to a customer about the best way to come and buy a new car?
Tough one. Again, I think it comes down to the way they want to be treated. Is they want to come in and see, a smiling face and a salesperson that's there ready to go.
Yep.
So I think the same way that they walk in, and because can be pretty scary walking into a dealership and just having sales consultants waiting there for you, ready to jump all over you. But I think it's the same way as, they come in, ease their way into it, and then if they have build that rapport and relationship with the sales consultant, I think that's the best way to do it.
Couldn't agree more, mate. Couldn't agree more. So you've mentioned a couple of times the word mindset. And I don't think in your childhood I ever heard you say that word once. But it's quite irregular now because it's so important. So talk us through the importance of mindset, and also the importance of how do you turn up every day and mentally prepare yourself for a day on the tools?
Well, it's one of those things where you can't come in slow to work. Yeah, I'll just get breakfast while I'm at work and then get really slow into it. It's more one of those things where you hear there's people watching you, there's customers walking around the showroom. As soon as you walk in these doors, you need to be engaged. So there's obviously a process that you need to do in the morning. Wake up at the same time every morning. I've got a 6:28 and 6:30 alarm, 2 minutes apart, so I don't fall back to sleep. And it's the same routine every morning. And then when you come in, you're here ready to go.
So I suppose mine's a bit different because my alarm goes at 4 and yours goes at 6:30.
Yeah, a little bit.
Bit of unapplied time there, mate. I reckon you can work a bit harder. So just on your work ethic, there is an award that Mazda do, which is called a Master Member, which is the highest pinnacle of awards you can get in the Sales Guild. So there's an associate member and there's a Master Member. You were the honorary award taker there for the most prestigious award there is as a salesperson, and the first ever salesperson at Grand Prix Mazda Aspley since one very own Luke Daniel Camilleri. So from Camilleri to Camilleri to take the honour.
Yep.
It blew my mind that you got that award in your first 18 months of selling cars. What's it mean in your first period of your career to have that award, and what did it mean for you to get it at the time? Because it was such a high honour.
Yeah. Well, first full year in a full sales year, I should say, I didn't think I was going to make it there anyway. I didn't really have it there as something I wanted to achieve until it got right at the end of the year, and the progress came through, and you said, hey, you might actually make this. Like, you have an opportunity.
Yeah.
But I didn't. It wasn't something that was on my mind. But as soon as it came to the end of the year, again, came back to that customer service with the MSI and the scores that we're getting back from customer experience. And when it got close to the day, I remember, you pulled me into your office and you're reading out all the guild awards, and I was like, oh, yep, reading all through the dealerships, and there was no Queensland dealer until you got to my name. And then you said, and the master member, Kyden Camilleri, and my heart just dropped. I didn't know what to do because it wasn't something I was expecting to get. And it was just absolutely amazing. So hopefully on track to try and get it again this year. And
I remember the feeling I got, proud of you, so proud, when I got the call from the national sales manager of Mazda Australia, and he'd rung me and said to me, oh, I need to tell you this before it gets published, but you need to keep it quiet,
Yeah.
And my heart was racing just with utter pride. So well done on that one, mate.
Thank you.
Couple other questions I've got for you. What do you enjoy most about your day-to-day job? Like what during a day, what do you enjoy the most?
Probably just talking to customers. Like I said earlier, I'm not one to sort of like sitting around and not doing anything. I'm always moving, and always talking as well, annoying people.
Yep.
So when it comes to talking to a customer, like obviously the intention of selling a car, but also just learning more about what they do and how they work and how they buy cars and how their process works and how they do their daily routines, and just simply talking to people.
Yep.
And obviously we've got a good group of salespeople on the floor, so just love talking, keep them active and doing my thing.
Very good.
Yeah.
And what have you learnt most? And you'll probably need to think about this. I probably should have given you a prompter on this one.
Jeez.
What have you learnt most since you left school and you've come to work? What's your biggest learning you think so far to date?
I think it's just how different of a world it is. So when you're that young, you're not thinking about what's happening in the future.
Yep.
But coming into this, you can just tell it's just a huge jump from going from school every day. Get home at 3 o'clock, you're home, jump on the PlayStation, have a couple snacks, and then you see Dad get home later. That's all it is.
Yeah.
But now, living and breathing it, you understand how important it is.
Yep.
And they, it might be long hours, but you understand and appreciate the hard work that goes into it and the result that you get out of it.
Yep.
To build yourself a career. So it's just one of those things that very tough question. But
No, you've answered it well, mate. You've answered it really well. Yeah. So lastly, and this will probably be your trickiest one, I am known to be a hard taskmaster and have very high expectations. What's it been like working with your dad, I guess, for one? And did you see, and I think you answered a little bit, but from obviously you went through school and you'd be at home eating your tiny teddies in the afternoon.
No, barbecue shapes.
And me getting home about 4 hours later. But what have you learnt since then, I guess, around, or what have you taken out of that, seeing the different style of now you're in it to what you were watching back then?
Yeah, it's just a growth sort of development. Like over time, it's, just a huge jump between. But I think your expectations are the way they need to be to get the result that you do. And not necessarily that it's a bad thing. It's a great thing because it's helping us for a future career. I feel like you build the value in what we need to do and the expectations that we need to have to if we want to achieve what we want to achieve.
Yep.
So I think it's more of like a career building sort of expectation is sort of what I'm trying to get at. Yep.
And what about the second part of that question is more so what have you learnt from it? As in, what did you see differently, from when you were at school, and then you've come on board? Did you see a completely different side, and were you blown away by some of the things you didn't know existed?
Yeah, it's the behind the scenes almost, because I'd see you leave and I'd see you come home and that's it. But I guess the in between is how much goes on here and how much of a responsibility you hold, and just the amount that you can learn by doing this job. So.
Yep. And my last question for you is, obviously the dealership's built off some really strong, solid pillars. and we have some disciplines in place. But what do you think would be the biggest? Like we run a very, very tight team. What would you say would be the biggest strength of the team, or the dealership, or the sales operation? Is it the teamwork? Is it the disciplines in place? What is it? What do you think, working in it, what would you think are the biggest strengths?
Yeah, definitely the teamwork, but one of your pillars, remember where you came from.
Yep.
I feel like we have a lot of people that have come through, and they will never forget that saying.
Yes.
Where, if you think back to where they were and the opportunity that we have now and the career that we have, and I was lucky enough to obviously, be your son, but some people aren't as lucky. Yep. So seeing where they've come from to where they are now, and then as well as that, obviously the teamwork, like I just mentioned, is this team is just, we're so close,
Yep.
Nothing will break us.
Yep.
But yeah, I think it's just one of those things where remembering where you came from, and I think everyone does that individually, which creates us as a team.
No, outstanding, Kai. You're a chip off the old block, that's for sure, mate. You've answered those questions extremely well, and you've made me very proud. You're a bit anti coming on the podcast, a bit nervous about it, but I just,
First one.
I really wanted to have my son on here, and I'm very proud of what you've done. I'm proud of the awards, and I'm really proud of how far you've grown. From year 12, or even as a young fella, you've always had a beautiful heart and a beautiful soul, and you've always had your head in the right direction. You've kept yourself grounded, and even to this day, you've done an excellent job. So, thank you for being on Carman Conversations.
Thanks for having me.
Let it be said, I got you on before Jalen, so not that there's any favourites. Bud's at school, so.
Hey, Rain can't speak yet.
Yeah,
Rain
can't talk. Rain can't talk. So, thanks very much, mate. Give me a hug, eh? Thank you. Well, I really enjoyed that episode with my son, Kyden. He's definitely a chip off the old block, and he's got a fantastic career, and couldn't be more proud of how far he's come. And if you want to see more of Kai and follow the journey and this amazing career of his, we'll leave the links to his socials in the description below.